Today we're looking at the 1973 sci-fi classic Westworld, the film that would of course spawn the TV series. The film is written and directed by Michael Crichton and stars Richard Benjamin as Peter, James Brolin as John, and Yul Brynner as the gunslinger. It tells the story of a highly technologically sophisticated amusement park called Delos, which contains three worlds: a recreation of an old Western town, a medieval European experience, and an ancient Roman city. The three experiences are inhabited by human-like androids, which are programmed to make the experiences as real as possible, though they're also programmed to not harm humans. Now, this is John's second time to Delos, and it's Peter's first. The experience is sold to the public as the ultimate vacation escape. The visitors take on the role of a person from that particular time period and simply live each day as if they were really in that time. We see some of the guests in the Roman and medieval settings, but the majority of the film takes place in the Old West, where we see John and Peter exploring and enjoying the completely authentic cowboy western experience, right down to the seedy saloon bars, bordellos, and regular bar fights and prison escapes, and also, of course, the daily gunfights. They are a regular occurrence, and both men are challenged by androids on occasion. When shot, the androids bleed out and basically die, for lack of a better word, and they're later taken behind the scenes to be repaired in the maintenance areas of Delos, where scientists and engineers repair the damage and then send them back into the simulations the following day. The androids can't shoot humans because their guns have special temperature controls. They can't shoot at a warm-blooded being. Physically, the androids are perfectly realistic, except for their hands. It's kind of ironic, actually, that modern AI art has struggled to get human hands quite right. It's similar in this film, although actually I would say that over the last year or so, AI art has now managed to, I think they've cracked the hands thing pretty well. Now, I do want to say that James Brolin is great in this film, and he's obviously the father of actor Josh Brolin. Needless to say, Josh does resemble his father quite a bit. However, what I would say is that Christian Bale looks a great deal like a young James Brolin. In fact, the resemblance is downright uncanny. I would say that Christian Bale looks more like James Brolin in this film than Josh Brolin does. Anyway, John and Peter really get into their roles as men of the Old West, but things slowly start to go haywire behind the scenes. Now, the film would remind you of basically a Star Trek The Next Generation holodeck episode where the simulation goes crazy and endangers the crew. I'd say that it's most likely that Westworld was the inspiration for that very Star Trek trope. The designers of Delos had factored in a low failure rate for the androids, but for some reason, more serious technical faults start occurring and spreading through the simulations, almost like a computer virus. All hell breaks loose as the androids no longer respond to their programming and become violent. Now, it's not expressly stated in the film that the androids have become self-aware as they did in the TV show, but at the bare minimum, the safety protocols aren't working anymore, shall we say. That's for sure. More and more of these little incidents and accidents start happening where guests suffer the odd unexpected injury, but things really kick off when the gunslinger shoots and kills John in the street, forcing a devastated Peter to make a run for it. He's pursued by the gunslinger through the desert and eventually finds a way into the other simulations before getting into the control room, where he finds that the engineers have suffocated to death. Now, what I like about the film is that it blends several genres together. It's a sci-fi film, obviously, but it's also a modern take on a Western with sci-fi elements. But it's also a disaster movie and a kind of monster slasher thriller movie. The other thing that works so well is that the film, for the most part, is quite light-hearted and comedic for a good deal of the runtime. And then it seamlessly transitions into this creepy, tense, dark tone, becoming disturbing and unnerving with murder, death, and destruction everywhere. And I think that really adds to the shock value because it's such a contrast between the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie. And the cast really sells that emotional shift very well. Richard Benjamin's panic and terror as the reality and horror of the situation kicks in, and Yul Brynner's cold, emotionless, machine-like menace is highly threatening and frightening. And the ending of the film, the final showdown between he and Peter, is very Terminator-esque. Now, the film would be followed up by a sequel called Future World in 1976, starring Peter Fonda and Blythe Danner. But it's generally not very well received, and Michael Crichton was not involved in that. It also wasn't nearly as successful at the box office. There was a short-lived TV series spin-off called Beyond Westworld, produced in 1980, and of course the very popular Westworld TV series on HBO from 2016, which became a huge pop culture phenomenon. For good reason, it was well written and had a great cast, but I kind of felt like it veered too much into the Black Mirror-esque modern dystopian trend of, a lot of recent streaming sci-fi shows these days, losing some of the fun and lightheartedness that made the original so magical. But much like an android itself, the TV series, I think, lacked something of a soul. Most fans of the TV series agree that it declined in quality by season 3, and I find this generally happens with TV shows that rely too heavily on the annoying mystery box storytelling formula. But the original Westworld from 1973 is a classic movie. It's a great movie, and it is well worth a rewatch if you haven't watched it in a while. So guys, let me know your thoughts on Westworld 1973 in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. A lot of you do come back on occasion, and I know that you're not subscribed. I can see that in the analytics data. So I'd love to have you over here as permanent subscribers, and it's totally free, and you can change your mind at any time and unsub if you so wish. Take care, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.